Hi, I'm Jessica Poston, and I'm representing our working groups team that has been working on the sugary drink legislation. And we appreciate you giving us a few minutes at your local town hall meeting to give you this information. The reason this legislation is important to us is because we believe sugary drinks are a problem. The excess consumption of added sugars, especially from sugary drinks, contributes to the high prevalence of obesity and diabetes and even other health factors, particularly among children and adolescents who are socioeconomically vulnerable. There are several factors that we believe contribute to this problem. One would be that sugary drinks are available in large portions. We all hear at the fast food restaurant, do you want to supersize it or have it in a bigger size? This has become more prevalent in the recent years, which leads to more sugary drink consumption. And also, this has increased over time, even from the 1970s. There was a study done from the Academic Journal of Preventive Medicine that shows the trend from the 70s till now of an increase in sweetened beverage consumption by 135% for all age groups. Another factor we believe that contributes to this problem is that sugary drinks contain little to no nutritional value, and there's been studies done that show that this is the case. It also is the primary source of added sugars, being that sugary drinks represent half of all sugars consumed by people. Also, another factor is that sugary drinks are the leading source of caloric intake in Americans' diet. The majority of youth consume at least one sugary drink every day, which accounts for about 224 calories per day for that youth, all just because of sugary drinks. One way to help with the consumption of sugary drinks is to implement an excise tax. This would be an addition to the cost of a sweetened drink beverage. It would be an added amount added on to the price of the drink. And it could be tiered or not tiered, meaning that if it was tiered, the more sugar it had in it, the more excise tax you would pay. And the less sugar it had, the less you would pay. So that's how that would work. Those are a couple options. Another options would be to regulate schools and make them implement an emphasis on health literacy and educate the students about the adverse health outcomes as a result of sugary drink consumption. Also prohibiting food and drink beverage advertisements, as well as not allowing for sugary drinks at all to be purchased or consumed on school grounds. One way we looked at these decision options was through the socio-ecological model, the SEM, and we used the settings and targets and looked at these individual levels of public policy, community, organizational, interpersonal, and individual to help us come to these conclusions. Here we're looking at the two decision options and weighing them. When it comes to an excise tax, there are a lot of positives about it. One is that it raises revenue for important programs, and this money could also be used in communities where they have been adversely affected by the sugary drink consumption with health effects. Also, it discourages consumption by raising the prices, whereas people may think twice before they go to purchase a sugary drink. Also, it increases awareness and shifts the focus on healthier alternatives. It also encourages beverage companies to try to invent things and come up with healthier alternatives to sugary beverages. It also affects the policy and all levels of the SEM, so it is able to use a wider variety and reach a wider variety of people. It may still negatively impact vulnerable socioeconomically populations because they may not be able to afford healthier options, and so they may still try to go for those sugary drink consumptions, and this would not be good because they'd still be spending a lot of money on it. Change is hard, and so implementing an excise tax would need to take a lot of buy-in, which is why we're starting from here. A tiered option may be more fair when using an excise tax. When looking at schools, there are a few positives. It falls under the organizational category in the SEM, so it is a smaller reach. It also, students spend a lot of time at school, and so it's a great way to influence them from a very young age and get them into healthier habits. But teachers might need more training, and so this would involve needing more resources and funding, which we know schools often have a difficult time doing that. After weighing all the options and looking and assessing them through the SEM, we as a working group have decided that we feel like the best legislation for sugary drink consumption to help reduce that would be to implement an excise tax with an option to make it a tiered tax, but we would give that option to the states. And so they would be able to decide, everyone would do an excise tax, but then a state would be able to decide whether they want to make it tiered or not. So we would get buy-in from the states, and they would be able to decide whether they feel like it's important to be tiered or not. Some short-term goals that we've set for ourselves in trying to pass this legislation would be to educate states about excise tax, to allow them to choose whether to be tiered or not. So they need to know what exactly it entails and what's the pros and cons are before they're able to make that decision. Also, to develop another working group to help specifically with researching facts about sugary beverages to be able to be placed in the bill so that we have all the pieces of it. And also to educate the public of the harms of sugary drinks and to allow states to decide where the revenue from the tax will go, so the states individually can decide what to do with that money and what communities need it most. And that may differ from state to state. Also, we want to get buy-in from all the stakeholders, which we're starting right here at our local town hall meeting. And then we'd like to take this even further into our communities and schools and even up to the state legislator. And also some long-term goals that we have. Hopefully, if this tax is implemented, the excise tax, then we would like to see some development of research to see if it's actually working to decrease the consumption of sugary beverage drinks, and also to see if our health outcomes are better as a result of this tax. We would also like to support the beverage industry, potentially even from the excise tax revenues, to encourage the development of healthier drink options and things that are more beneficial health-wise for our youth and for people in general. Also, we'd like to look into the possibility of adding an excise tax potentially to other unhealthy food options, even things that contain high sodium, like chips or anything else. So we'd like to expand this even further, maybe 5 to 10 years down the line after we have some research and some data that we can use. Thank you for your time.